whenever I bring in the heater, then you complain that, I'm a wuss. And
Hope we're recording this.
We are recording this. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Where the Game Lives On, the official podcast of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. I'm joined by my co-host, Byron Shive. We're back in studio. It feels kind of good. A little chilly, but still feels good to be in here.
Yeah, it's cold, but it actually feels kind of weird. It's been a while since I've been in here for an actual episode. So.
How do I sound? My allergies been kicking my rear end.
I wasn't going to say anything. I imagine the listeners
they'll be able to tell.
To pick that.
Yeah, bear with us. We're going to fight through this
who's
episode.
Who's the new host of Where the Game Lives
It's
On?
Austin Butler. Do you know who Austin Butler is?
I don't.
He
sure
played,
it was a funny reference, though.
He played Elvis Presley in the new Elvis movie. And so everybody talks about how he did all this like voice, acting to get ready for it. But he's got a super like,
we gotta win this race.
He's in the new Dune. Are you a Dune guy?
No, I do. My mom was a big Elvis fan, and so
really?
Elvis used to do movies.
Yeah.
And the funniest, I heard a comedian once talking about how that Elvis couldn't even act, and they'd put him in movies. And they'd say, "Hey Elvis, we gotta win this race. We gotta win this race." Elvis, you want some lemonade? Lemonade. That's a cool, refreshing drink. Anyway,
you probably remember when the first Dune came out. Do you?
I don't know that I ever saw Dune. I know what you're talking about. But
are you a sci-fi guy?
Apparently not.
No, I like sci-fi.
I don't hate it. I just don't think I ever saw Dune.
Yeah, it's interesting. We could talk about the Oscars, but I'd have to actually watch it to be able to critique what happened.
I was basically going to slide in here naked with just a box over my quote-unquote junk.
I did see that, though. That was wild.
I mean, I guess if I looked like John Cena, I might walk around naked, too.
There's no way. He had to have something, like a pouch or something. I don't know.
Anyway.
We're off to a hot start.
I do intend on. I didn't watch the Oscars. I know that it's heavily watched. I do know that Oppenheimer won Best Picture. I still have not seen it because I can't get myself to dedicate 3.5 hours. And so I heard a good idea on the way in today. They were talking about watching it and treating it like a Netflix series. I mean, we binge watch Netflix series, episode after episode after episode. Just treat it as 4, 45-minute episodes. Or something. So anyway,
isn't that funny?
I do intend on watching it, but just haven't done it.
Yeah, no, I intend to watch it too. I told myself whenever it came out on streaming, I would, and here we are. Still haven't watched it, but the big thing last summer was obviously like the Barbie Oppenheimer thing. I
did go. I this might surprise you, but I might do swing off. I head north on 65 when I leave, and I'll get off at Battlefield and get some buttered popcorn.
Yeah.
But I'll just stop in and go in and buy popcorn and eat it on the way home.
Do you eat all of it?
Of course.
Oh my goodness.
On the way home. I love popcorn. But anyway, I do recall stopping in last summer when Barbie was a hit and seeing grown women dressed in pink Barbie attire, like as a group. It was obviously a hit, I guess. But
yeah,
that was kind of crazy, just seeing grown women out dressed as Barbie. So
my dad's kind of like that though too.
Your dad dresses as Barbie?
No, the popcorn. Back on the popcorn.
Brian, you might want to.
No, he whenever I was in high school and stuff, I'd be like, I'm going to the movies. He'll be like, get a bucket. I'm like, what?
Yes.
Like, get a bucket and fill it up after the movie.
And when you got to get that real butter right in the middle of it, 3 levels.
And he loves it so much, he'll like he likes it stale. Like he'll eat it.
Oh, I'll eat it the next day.
Yeah, he would eat it and then save some and eat it no. I went and saw the Barbie movie with my fiance, obviously trying to, fiance of the year there.
Yeah.
And I don't mind sharing this on the podcast, but here's what happened. We went to the Marquis Suites, which is kind of like dinner and a movie all in one, whatever.
Okay.
Got there a little early, so went to Big Whiskey's right next door. Had a few drinks there, then got into the movie. Had a few more. Those seats really comfortable, really comfortable.
You were not.
We're about halfway through that thing, and I just remember her punching me, in the theater, and I just go, "What?" She's like, "You are snoring." So I got in trouble because, it's never good enough that you go to the movie.
Well, you can't ruin the fiance of the year attempt with.
It was A for effort, but it was a failed attempt. So.
I did not see the Barbie movie. I have no intention of seeing the Barbie movie, but I did. My wife did take my daughter. So.
Did any of them mention crying? Did they cry?
Yeah, the moms did.
I was about to say my fiance cried
the
during
moms, apparently I haven't seen the movie, but it's just the whole they grow up kind of I guess. But yeah, I heard that from multiple moms that they cried.
Well,
this is a sports podcast. Haven't been in studio in a month, and here we are talking about Barbie the movie.
Oh well.
And we wonder why we have 2 listeners.
We'll get on some sports. How about that?
All
It's March Madness time.
Awesome time of year.
I'm curious who. I don't know if you've been watching any ball, but who are you liking right now? Who do you think has a chance?
I mean, I don't watch like I used to. I used to watch back in the day. I would watch every night, obviously, but I keep up with it. I think 3 teams, 2.5 teams, I guess, have separated themselves. I think Houston and UConn are clear cut above everybody else. I throw Purdue in that 2.5 to 3 mix.
Mm-hmm.
They are certainly good, but Purdue just until they actually do it. I mean, every year they're the team. Now that being said, if they follow the Virginia, if everybody remembers a few years ago, Virginia got beat by Maryland, Baltimore County, 16 to beat a 1. Very next year, they won the national championship. So last year, Purdue, number 1 seed, gets beat by Fairleigh Dickinson. If tradition holds, then they win the national title this year. But they have the player of the year. Don't know that he's the best player in basketball, but he's certainly worthy of the player of the year consideration. Zach Edey. I think Purdue, if you can let him score 50, and if you shut down the rest of the team, you're going to be. I mean, they basically have him and some shooters.
Yeah.
But Purdue is, I grew up in Indiana, hating IU, Indiana, and so Purdue, I rooted for them. When I wasn't.
Oh, really?
Rooting for Kentucky just because they weren't Indiana. But so I wouldn't be upset to see them make a run, but. Until they actually do. I think that UConn and Connecticut have separated themselves. And I think you got some second-tier teams in there, like who's the 4th number 1 seed. I think those 3 are clearly number 1s. And you got Tennessee, North Carolina, Arizona are the 3 that are probably most mentioned. Arizona had a chance probably to seal the number 1 seed last weekend, and they got beat by USC. That's embarrassing.
Bronny James.
Yeah, but then Tennessee lost. Then, of course, Carolina goes to Cameron Indoor and not only beats Duke, but then taunts the fans and gets that was kind of a weird scene. You've got on one side the whole Carolina team taunting the Cameron Crazies, and water and projectiles are coming out of the stands. Meanwhile, John Shire is shaking hands and personally apologizing to all the Crazies for losing the game. I mean, that's such a Duke thing.
Yeah,
I don't
wild scene. Speaking of UNC, if you didn't catch last week's episode, Tyler Hansbrough joined us.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of insight on college basketball. Yeah. You already mentioned the 2 teams that I was thinking of. I think if there's ever a year for Purdue to win it, it's this year. Granted, I don't bet my bottom dollar on teams that aren't blue bloods.
Yeah.
They have had a lot of bad experiences recently in the tournament. And you're right, maybe they follow that Virginia formula. And UNC. They're a solid team. Obviously, they come off one of their biggest wins of the season on the road in Cameron. But between ACC Player of the Year, RJ Davis, and 7th-year senior Armando Bacot.
17th year senior.
I just think between those 2 guys, they just have a really, really solid chance to make a run. Again, Hansbrough had some really great comments about those guys coming back, all of that stuff.
Veterans.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you, if I have a wild card, and you'll get a kick out of this, it's Kentucky.
I would not want to play Kentucky.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. Do they play good defense? Absolutely not. Can they shoot the lights out of the gym? Absolutely. And a team that can score 85 points in a game in college, I don't want to play them.
Well, the thing about the NCAA tournament that's proven over the years is guards come to the forefront, and that's why Purdue scares me, because their best player is Zach Edey. They, if their guards are off, they're beat. And but you mentioned RJ Davis. He's got the experience. He saw plenty of playing time on that team 2 years ago that beat Duke in the ended Krzyzewski's career and had Kansas down 16 at halftime and wound up losing. But so they've got experience. But you think of Kimball Walker for UConn back in the day, and Sharif Abdur-Rahim also got hot. Took UConn to a title. Guard play wins in March, and despite their defense, Kentucky has not one, not two, but they got 3 guards that can light it up with Antonio Reeves, Reed Shepherd, and Rob Dillingham. The crazy thing about Kentucky, and obviously draft boards are clickbait more than anything else.
Of course.
Kentucky, according to these mock drafts, obviously too early, but mock drafts, they've got 2, not just lottery picks, but 2 top 5 picks coming off their bench. They don't even start. Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham don't even start for Kentucky. So obviously I've told whoever wants to listen, everybody that listens to this show knows I'm a Kentucky fan, but Kentucky can lose in the first round like they did to St. Peter's a few years ago, or they could win the whole thing. That's just don't know.
Kentucky to me this year is the stereotypical European player. They are a walking bucket. They have a tremendous bag, and they play no defense.
Zero defense.
I'll throw this one in. Lastly, another. You talk about guard play. You talk about a wild card. A team I think that's been looking good here towards the end. I can't even name their guards for you, but Syracuse. They've looked pretty solid. I think if they can make a run here in the ACC tournament, possibly. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's going to be a stretch, but I think they're like a 6 seed maybe in the ACC tournament. But looking at their path, they have a chance. They'd have to upset Duke in the semis to go, but I think they have guards.
I haven't seen Syracuse play. Do they still, I know Boeheim's not there. They don't play that 2-3 anymore, do they?
I don't think so. Okay. No, I don't think so. That was kind of his thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. Did you see the?
Here's a couple of wild cards for you. You mentioned that are going to be in that high seed that can make a run is coming out of the Missouri Valley Conference. Drake, of course, they made the tournament. They beat Indiana State. Is it DeVries or whoever the coach? I think it's the coach's son. You talk about walking bucket. That guy can light it up from wherever. But they were impressive. They have a big guy down low, so they've got some inside outside.
Yeah.
But in Indiana State, even though they lost the Missouri Valley, I think they're worthy of an at-large bid. And if they show up as a 12 seed, you got that popular 12-5 upset. I would not want to be the 5 seed playing Indiana State. So that's a couple teams also that I think can make a run.
Absolutely. Mentioned some Mo Valley there. That's a good plug right there. Did you catch LSU South Carolina women's?
I did not watch the game. I am aware of the fisticuffs.
My goodness. It was just not a good look. Not a good look for basketball. Not a good look for the SEC. But I'll voice my opinion on it. Kim Mulkey absolutely just rubs me the wrong way. Great coach.
I heard the best thing is that she would, if the whole Hall of Fame coaching career doesn't work out for her, she would be perfect in WWE. She's got the outfits already. She's got the bravado, the smack talk. She would be a great WWE promoter.
But you look at the stuff like that happens, right? It wasn't handled the right way. I like seeing teammates stand up for other teammates, but you have to go.
Do you like seeing brothers coming out of the stands to stand up?
That was a little, yes. It got a little crazy there. But no, what bugged me was the post-game press conference.
I was going to comment. It was definitely night and day difference in the coach's
South Carolina's
response.
Coach was like,
Don Staley was,
we can't let that happen. I'm so sorry. I'm upset with my girls. And Kim Mulkey's like, pick on somebody your own size. Let's go to the back alley or whatever.
That's been Mulkey her whole, even at Baylor. I mean, she's going to speak her mind, I guess.
Well,
I agree. Don Staley's response was what you're looking for there.
Whether you like how she conducts herself, whether you like how she dresses, I'll tell you this, that kind of fiery attitude, it's what gets her players to buy in.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They want to play for her. They want to win for her.
Absolutely.
If she got in a fight, they'd be backing her up probably. We got lots of college hoops coming up in the next few episodes, though. We've got Michael Watson, UMKC standout, Missouri Sports Hall of Famer. He'll be joining us next week. Also want to mention the Hall of Fame Bracket Challenge is back.
We'll have the brackets Sunday night.
Yeah, no, my goodness, it's upon us, isn't it? That'll be awesome. We'll have information on our socials, also in the upcoming episodes in the podcast description. You can enter a bracket. You only get one. We've got the rules there that you'll be able to see, but top 3, they're going to get
we should
prizes.
Invite the winner onto to a podcast.
That would be kind of cool. But like last year, the guy that won it had UConn in his Final Four, and nobody else did.
That was a crazy Final Four, though, with Florida Atlantic and Miami and UConn and San Diego State. Nobody.
Yeah.
What was it? UConn a 3 seed?
No.
Were they
they were like a 6.
Were they that high?
UConn was like a 6 seed,
No
I
way.
think.
I thought they were like the only good team in the final.
I would look it up, but our internet upstairs, I think, is down. So
shocker, something at the Hall of Fame, including the HVAC system not working.
It's 12 degrees in our podcast studio right now. Let's talk a little NFL. I've been wanting to talk combine with you, but we'll get to that here in a later episode. Monday was the beginning of free agent frenzy. My goodness, you've got Kirk Cousins to the Falcons, Russell Wilson to the Steelers, Christian Wilkins, D lineman from the Dolphins going to the Raiders. It was just, I was sitting there, my phone's just like bing, bing.
This
bing.
is the craziest thing about Monday. Kirk Cousins, this guy, one playoff win.
Coming off of surgery right now.
So 2012, he got his standard rookie deal.
Yeah.
2016, 19.9 fully guaranteed. 19.9 million, that is.
That's when he went to the Vikings?
2017, I think so, yeah. 23.9 million fully guaranteed. 2018, 84 million fully guaranteed.
Wow.
2020, 66 million fully guaranteed. 2022, 35 million fully guaranteed. And then signed a $150 million contract, 100 million of which is fully guaranteed. So that's $411 million in his career through 2027.
His agent,
of which 329 million is fully guaranteed, and he's got one playoff win in 12 years.
That's insane. Fully guaranteed money.
Put the guy
like
in the Hall of Fame if for no other reason than
put his agent in the Hall of Fame.
Yes. That is just crazy. That I don't know. That was probably the craziest thing I saw. Of course, Russell Wilson got released by the Broncos, signs with the Steelers. There was a lot of dogpiling on Russell Wilson, how awful he is, and he had a terrible year in Denver. But if you're Pittsburgh and you're looking on one side and you got Mason Rudolph, and you look over here and you can sign a guy that played at an MVP level in his career that had a bad year, and you get him for $10 million bucks. I mean, that's a risk reward contract if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah, that's the thing. He really only had 22 was a bad year for him. This past year, you look at his numbers, he kind of bounced back a little bit. Obviously, had Sean Payton at the helm.
I think it's a great signing. I mean, they didn't overpay. He's got a prove it contract for a year, and obviously Pittsburgh's a big football town, and I did see a funny meme. It said Mike Tomlin, of course, the coach of the Steelers, has never had a losing season, which is obviously very, very impressive. And Mike Tomlin, I've never had a losing season in my career or coaching career, and Russell Wilson, hold my beer or whatever, something like that. So.
Yeah, no, the Steelers fashion, they'll go like 9-7-1 next year, and they'll get a wild
AFC
card.
Championship and play in the AFC Championship.
Yeah. But no, they play in one of the toughest divisions in football, and I think they can actually compete at least with
that
Russell
whole
Wilson.
division is flat out loaded with Baltimore and Cincinnati.
A lot of those teams are just
Cleveland's on the way up.
So. Those are the types of teams they have to have big free agent moves, or they need to draft somebody early that's really going to impact them. So it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see where Derrick Henry goes.
Yeah,
that was the most surprising thing for me was Green Bay. I've never seen them as a big free agency team, but they let go of Aaron Jones and picked up Josh Jacobs.
Okay,
so that's going to be obviously youth, and he's a way different running back than
he was with the Raiders,
Jones.
right?
Yeah. He's very like downhill one cut guy.
He can
but Jones was like kind of like that hybrid.
He was catching the ball in the backfield, all that. Yeah.
I don't think it'll be interesting to see now what the Chicago Bears do, because the Falcons were the number one landing spot for Fields. And if you're asking me, I'm not a GM, but if I was the GM of the Chicago Bears, I'm keeping Justin Fields. I'm trading the number one pick for capital, and I'm probably passing up on Caleb Williams because I think Fields can play.
I have read Caleb Williams coming into this past year was
sure in doubt.
I mean,
shoe in number one,
like the next Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, can't miss prospect.
Absolutely.
And now you'll still see that in places, but there's a lot of scouts and others that are starting to say, pump the brakes on putting this guy in Canton.
You never know how a guy's game is going to translate.
And it's not a physical thing. What I'm reading is it's more that his dad's running things, and we're not going to play for this team. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And, that's warning signs before you ever show up in camp that you're already making demands and things like that. So
the astrology is telling me though that the Bears are going to move forward with Caleb Williams.
Yes,
which if that is the case, you are not keeping Justin Fields.
And I would call that the Michael Jordan rule. I mean, if you look back on the 84, 85 draft, whatever it was, and Portland took like Sam Bowie from Kentucky. Michael Jordan was drafted third.
Yeah.
And wound up, of course, greatest player in NBA history. And so you don't want to be Portland. You don't want to be the team that passes up the next Michael Jordan. I'm not anyway saying Caleb Williams is, but according to what everybody said is he's the can't miss guy. And I think you're right. I think they take Caleb Williams. And if you do, Justin Fields is not sitting on the bench.
I don't know what people say his comparison is, but I think his comp is very Russell Wilson. He's probably he's probably a little faster downhill, straight line speed. But in terms of that's what I see is that kind of elusiveness, extend plays, very poised in the pocket. I'm passing on him, and and he went to OU.
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln Riley recruited him at OU. I hated when he left, but I'm like, yeah, he's a dang good player. For me, it's the mental side. It's what's the maturity level like? You're right though. It's tough whenever
I don't want my starting quarterback painting his fingernails. Just to be honest with you. That's just me.
We'll see. You just never know. That's what I always tell people. The guys that most easily translate are linemen. And besides that, you never know entirely how a guy's game is gonna. You don't know what his mindset's like. It's interesting. You said something in there though. Jordan, greatest player of all time. Fact. Have you heard about recent things though? The we're done with the 90s trend right now that's going on?
No.
There's been this guy on social media who's been going back and finding all these old full game highlight clips of games in the 90s. And he's basically exposing how bad basketball was at that time, showing how Jordan doesn't have a left hand, how he had to get fouled all the time. He had no dribble moves whatsoever. Couldn't go to his left. Some people are saying the debate's way over.
It's way over. Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time.
I've never been a basketball guy. I'm not.
Okay, well, I'm done with the 2020s because these lightweights could not handle playing basketball in the 90s because they fouled and they called fouls in the 90s. So,
anyway, I've never been a guy that dies on one of those hills.
I'm not dying on any hills, but Jordan's better.
I think they're both good players.
And I hated Jordan, to be honest with you, because he knocked the Indiana Pacers out of the playoffs every single year. So I despised Jordan. I despised the fact that he got all the calls, but the guy was cutthroat, just like Kobe Bryant. I was never a Kobe Bryant fan, but the guy was mentality. I'm going to cut your throat, or I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut your throat while I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at today's game. You talk about the physicality, the foul calls, all that stuff, how the game has changed. Obviously, there's been like some rule changes, but kind of going back to what I said earlier, the NBA is European. Look at all these European players, and they can put up triple doubles left and right, and they can score from anywhere on the court. None of these guys play defense. None of them. Jokic, the guy can't even move fast enough to play defense.
Well, it looks like he just walked out of the YMCA onto an NBA floor. Of course, the guy is incredible, but
he cares more about his horses than his basketball game. But look at Luka. Yeah, I mean, Luka's probably the most prolific scorer in the league right now. I don't think I've ever seen
I think when we talk about that, I mean, if you were naming off, we were talking with Anthony Tolliver, who's the best players in the NBA right now. And he starts going, you got Doncic and you got the Greek freak, Giannis, and you got Wembanyama that just is playing for the Spurs now. Joel Embiid. I mean, they're.
Try this on for size right here. You've got Giannis, you've got Rudy Gobert, and you've got Wembanyama. Name another European player that can play D. And those are all bigs. None of those guards, they're all worried about Euro steps, step back threes. None of them are, pressing up on a ball handler and forcing turnovers.
So I mean, what you're saying, what I'm hearing, is that basically Kentucky just watches international basketball because you just described Kentucky. So
yeah, but no, if people have that conversation about the physicality of the league, and it's always in the GOAT conversation. And what does the league need to do? It doesn't matter. Your rule changes aren't going to fix anything. If that's like the make or break of the NBA, send the guys back over to Europe. That's all there is to it. Just because they play a different style, different brand of basketball over there. And it's funny, it happened in the era of LeBron. I feel like they still played pretty decent defense in the early 2000s when he came in. And since that tenure, it's gone totally 180. I don't watch the NBA.
I don't watch. I was fixing to say I can't really give a opinion other than Jordan's best. Because I don't watch the NBA.
It was like a week ago.
To me, it's unwatchable.
Yeah,
and part of it is I can't get the take 5 steps and they're not calling traveling. I mean, it's just unwatchable. And you come down and basically it's jack up 3, and it's, I don't know. It's like watching the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Only throughout the season.
It was like a week ago here Sunday. I was just sitting on the couch after church, getting ready to take a nap. Golden State was playing the Celtics in Boston, and I think Boston was up 82 to like 35 at half. They scored 80 in the first half, and we're at 50 balling them. Yeah. Something crazy like that. I was like, is this even real?
Yeah. And then you got the whole, let's call timeout and get the ball at half court nonsense. It's I just don't. I don't watch NBA.
Yeah. So. Well, we've come to the end of our time. We appreciate you joining us as always. As mentioned, stay up to date with everything we've got going on at the Hall of Fame. Champions Gala, April 4th. Information in the bio down below. We've also got the Hall of Fame bracket challenge. That's another big one. Michael Watson joining us next week remotely. That'll be a good episode as well. Be sure to join us. New episodes every Wednesday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Byron, thanks for bearing with me.
Yes. Burring with it. It's so cold in here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much again for joining us. Catch us next time on another episode of Where the Game Lives On.